Welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Friday on Coast to Coast. How's it going, guys?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good.
I'm doing wonderful. Just quick question. Did you guys happen to catch Charles Barkley? I forget what show he's on. I saw it yesterday. They were talking about jerseys when they wear them during games and at the hotels. And Charles Barkley said, back in our day, I would just wear my jersey into the hotel shower it off, clean it all up, and then put it back in the dryer. And Kenny's like, "What the hell are you talking about, Charles? That's not the way you do it." And Charles is like, "We talking about this whatever."
That's actually an old clip. But
it's crazy.
But it is hilarious because everybody's like, "What are you talking about, man? Nobody does that." But that's Chuck for you, right? Like, if there is ever somebody that's going to say something dumb on camera, it's Charles Barkley.
I like the fact that he says dumb stuff, though. That's
No
part
question.
of the fun of it being Charles.
Well, and he does zero prep for the show. So, I mean, that is exactly what's going to come out of his face anyway. Because anytime they ask him something about any players and stuff, he's like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, so then he's just like our show.
Basically, yeah. There's just four of us on here.
Yeah, exactly. Four of us that don't prepare worth a damn. So, yesterday, the Phillies made it to the seventh inning, and then they had a rain delay. And from what I understand, that rain delay went like 4 hours.
Okay.
It's like it was a 4-hour rain delay that they finished the game ultimately, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of around 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to get all the specifics on the rain delay right now, but ultimately, at what point should there be a call on the game? Now, I understand that the way that MLB has this now, and every team plays every other team, and there are certain games that you play that you are unable to get back with that team.
Yeah.
But when you're playing a game against a team that you're going to play again, and you're tied at the seventh inning, wouldn't we just say, hey, listen, we're going to start this one game a little earlier. Instead of being a 7:05 start, we're going to make it a 5:35 start and finish that game and then have the 7:05 start.
Yeah.
When we do it that way, rather than making people watch for hours, waiting for this game to finish up. The game itself was 2 hours and 53 minutes. Of course, they didn't include the pause.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Didn't they go into extras too?
Yeah, it did go into extras. It ended close 7 minutes to 1 is when it ended.
Wow,
that's from what the game started. I think it's 7 o'clock. It was a 7:05 start because it's in Atlanta and they don't do the 6:40 starts. 7 o'clock, and it ends at 1. That's 6 hours last time I checked.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a fan, with traffic, especially in Atlanta, you ain't getting home till probably like 2:30, 2:45, maybe almost 3.
Listen, everybody was gone after the first half hour of it raining.
Exactly. Exactly. There's no way.
This is Atlanta. They ain't staying around for that. It's like they're going. So I can imagine there may have been a whole 500 to 1,000 people left at 1 o'clock in the morning.
If that.
You think there was that many?
I mean, I didn't see how many people were left, but let me see if they actually have a video of it.
Like probably 500 plus the vendors.
Well, that's the thing.
No, they would have sent the vendors home after the seventh inning because most places stopped selling beer at the seventh inning, so they would have sent all the vendors home.
I was thinking more like along the food part of it or the merchandise.
There was probably. It looks like that there was probably about 500 to 1,000.
Wow.
Like they all were able to come down very low, but there was literally very low amount of people. Like they had them all around the. Like if you stuck around and waited, you waited, and of course they hit a home run to walk it off. So
nice.
Yeah, and makes it.
Yeah,
a
and you know the thing that's funny is even if they didn't
I mean,
send
if
him
you're a
home,
pitcher, I
would have
mean,
sent a bunch of them
there's a
home
lot of prep work that goes
because
into getting
it's that
ready for
late.
that.
What
Say
was
that
that
again?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Jay. Say that again.
I think he's like 10 seconds behind us.
Yeah, I'm lagging. I was just saying, if you're like a pitcher, I'll come back.
All right. So we understand. Oh yeah, I now understand what he was talking about. Like, yeah,
He's saying,
but
like, if
you're
you're a
not.
pitcher, you can't just
Yeah, but
warm up. You're just sitting there for 6 hours waiting. Like, are we going to play this game? Like, should I start stretching now? Should I start throwing now? Like, what's going on? Like, as a pitcher, you can't just like a hitter can go underneath and hit off a tee because they have a lot of like underground hitting areas where a hitter can get off a tee and get his work in. But as a pitcher, especially like a relief pitcher, you can't just go out there and start throwing because you don't know if the game's going to start. So why bother stretching yourself out and start throwing until you know you're going to play again?
right. I mean, so obviously at the end of the 7th inning is when they called this. So it was like at that point it was coming down pretty good.
Yeah.
Why do people call me? I love that people call me. I'm in the middle of my podcast. Let's don't call while I'm in the uh anyways, neither here nor there. It's I lost my whole train of thought. Sorry guys. Gone. It just was like it was here, it's here, gone. Poof.
Yep. And that's how you know it's a Friday.
Yeah,
The
Friday.
brain has checked out.
No, I was just asking, we have like a long delay like that. From a pitcher's perspective, to get warmed up, re-warmed up, all the things you got to do. I got to imagine it's going to be hard on them too, trying to do that.
Oh, you know, half those guys took a nap.
Oh, I bet you the whole relief corps did.
Yeah.
So it just so happened that the Philly starter just had come out for the 7th. So like he didn't go in for the 7th because he had pitched a lot of pitches. There was a couple of at bats where one at bat that I know that I heard it was like 15 pitches to the one guy in the 3rd inning.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I mean, there was some battles. That is a great battle, and then he wound up hitting it into a double play. But you literally cost that pitcher 3 batters, figuring that there's 5 pitches per batter. You cost that pitcher because it was 15 pitches for that one double play. Doesn't matter at that point. You know what I mean? It's like you helped get it out of here. And Luzardo's been great for the Phillies at the moment.
Yes.
But that being said, I mean, ultimately, so the guy only pitched in the 7th inning. I think he got a 1-2-3 7th, and ultimately, now he could probably start the 8th because he's still in the game. You don't need to be able to kind of do it like that. Like you go, hey, why not bring him back out there? He just had a 1-2-3 7th.
No, because I think if the game's tied and they suspend the game, you pick it up where it left off. So if they took him out of the game,
well, they didn't. They didn't put him back in because they didn't. Nobody answered the bell in the 8th.
So then he could have came back out there because they didn't actually take him out. So then he could have come back out there.
Correct. Yeah. Once they finish the game, the game's over. Now it's over. So it's. There you go. I remember. Trust me. I have been at games where the rain delay is going on, and I've been like one of the last guys there, and it's like the camera seems to find you at that point because I'm painted up still, and it's like 1:00 in the morning, and I'm like,
you're like, please get this stuff off my face.
This game's
Can we
still going.
Wrap this up so I can go home.
All I want to do is be like, Phillies won, yay! Time to go home. But Joe, I put it on my page. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. It's out there right now. So Yeah, anybody who's following me on Facebook, please go to the GoFundMe. Joe's got some some challenging news that he had gotten, and you know we like I said, if you have the ability, please go check it out, um, and donate what you can. So I'm thinking about you, Joe.
Jay's gone again. That's that Timu Wi-Fi going on right there.
We had sticking with baseball. We had another perfect game behind the plate last night.
Perfect game behind the plate.
Yep,
They called the perfect game.
Yep, home plate umpire Mark Rippiger called the second perfect game in the tracking area last night between the Twins and Royals.
Nice.
That's actually, I mean, isn't that amazing that we are now noticing that? Although since they're tracking this, I'd love to know, like, because I would be willing to give the umpires a 10%, like 10% of actually not 10%, more like probably 5%, because you're figuring that you're dealing with about 250 to 300 pitches a game, right?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're getting great. Like you got the one guy who's pitching under 100 pitches, and another guy who's got about between all the pitchers about 150. It's rare that you're getting two pitchers that are having a pitcher's duel and going to like 100 pitches per each. But so figuring about 300, 5% of 300 is what? So 10% would be 30, 15 pitches. That's even a lot still. Maybe it should be less than that. Maybe 1%? 1%, 3 pitches? 2%, 6. 6 pitches. 6 pitches would be good, I figure. Some of these guys are at like 25, 30.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are at the 10%. And it's how bad is that?
I figure if you're like 5 to 6 pitches, that makes sense, right? Because you might have blinked or something when one came through. Like, I mean, you're probably going to miss one or two, but yeah, when you see some of these guys that are 20, 25, you're just like, man, you guys are missing a lot. Like,
and does, I mean, what happens when an umpire does have a crappy game?
Nothing.
I got to imagine that nothing isn't really the answer there. Like I would love to know what umpires do have to go through. Like they got meetings and stuff like that. They got to deal with this. Listen, the crew chief, I'm sure, gets to hear about this. If it's not the crew chief that's calling the balls and strikes, and the guy is having a tough game, it's like the crew chief probably goes up there. I got to imagine that there's some of that conversation that occurs.
I mean, I'm sure there's a conversation. They're probably, like, hey, what's going on tonight? Like, how were you missing I would imagine that there's film that they go through, right? Be like, hey, like, why were you calling this the way you were? But it's not like you ever hear recourse really of like, oh, you've been demoted to college or, something like that. I mean, it happens. It does happen, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, and I got to imagine that they don't have, it's not a college thing. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like you're there in the pros, you're a part of the union in the pros. There ain't no.
No, I didn't. But they do have demotion. They do have demotion type stuff. I didn't mean literally to college, but like they kind of like where Hernandez. They're just like, yeah, you're not going to do any high profile games anymore before they finally got him out of there, right? Yeah. So I mean, they do have ways to limit your impact when it matters. So.
Yeah. So and that kind of I kind of get it. I mean, it's part of everything that happens. It's it's a fight. It's a challenge. I can imagine. But I mean, ultimately, I would love to know like what conversations happen between umpiring crews, because these crews are stuck together for a few games.
Yes.
And I assume that these teams are put together in general. So it's like, okay, you're at this games, and then you're at these games, and then you're at these games. Like that, they don't like to break up the team.
Yeah, I think when they assemble them, like they are kind of a package deal.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they do that for football too. I mean, generally crews are mostly together. Sometimes they'll have a guy come in and out, but for the most part, it's the same group.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta imagine, since you, what site did you see that the umpire had the perfect game?
I'll have to find it. I'll have to find it again. Quick, hold on. The dugout report.
So in the dugout report, does it have all, like, what every umpire did that day and what every umpire does every day?
Let me see. What I've never actually really looked into that. Let me see once. Give me a couple minutes to find it. I'll let you know.
All right. I mean, just because I like that idea, I want to know now. Now I want to know, because now I want to be able to say, like, I think umpires kind of do okay. I do find a number of challenge that umpires seem to have a difficulty figuring out where a swing is and where it isn't.
Yeah, where they check it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
No, I
like
gotcha.
the check part of the swing is really, I guess, more difficult to call.
Well, I mean, that's why they point down to, down the baseline. Like, did he go by? Right. Sorry to hear this, Joseph. Again, go check out his GoFundMe. It's on Pag's Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up real fast. I'll be able to kind of find it and copy and send the link.
There you go. But yeah,
Because,
in fact, if you send it, if you shoot me in a text, then I can post it, so it'll populate to all of the platforms on my end also.
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, so that's why they end up pointing down, because I mean, from behind the plate, it would be really hard to tell exactly where the bat stopped. So, I mean, I get it from that front. But if there's any question, that's where the batter's supposed to point down to the, first or third base guy and be like, hey, did we go around?
So the dugout report is a connection off of Bleacher Report. So it's like a site that works directly with Bleacher Report. They don't have like their actual website that you can get to. But there is, if you go on X, there is something on X called umpire scorecards. And umpire scorecards are posted every game for umpires on that thing on X.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you had Mark Rippener last night, 100% accuracy. Then you had Mark Carlson for the Phillies and Braves, was 91% accurate. Manny Gonzalez was 92%. Jim Wolf, 94%. Mark Rippener, the 100%. Another 92 for White Sox and Guardians, 90%, 95%, 96%, 93%. So everybody, for the most part, last night was at least 91% accurate or better last night for umpires.
Yeah, I mean,
but 91% we're already talking about isn't very good.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like, you would need to be 95% or better.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the threshold is really between like 91 and 95 is where most of these guys are at.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of isn't great, right? I mean, that means you're missing at least 15 pitches probably.
So yeah, I'll see if I can pull one up. So the one scorecard here for 93%, it shows all of the missed calls that they had. And most of the missed calls are basically like borderline calls where a small portion of the ball is like touching the box or just missing the box, and it was called one way or another. So 9 out of 99 called balls were strikes. So basically there was 9 borderline calls that should have been strikes that were called balls. Okay. And then there was 1 out of 45 called strikes was a ball that was like 3 inches outside that he called a strike that should have been a ball. So it shows you like every like borderline pitch that should have went one way or another that got called the way it was supposed to. So he called basically out of 144 called strikes, 134 called strikes were correct. Out of 144. Because obviously, foul balls and swinging strikes, you don't have to worry about the called strike because that's going to be a strike anyway. So out of 144 called strikes in the game, 134 calls were accurate, which comes out to be 93%. MLB average for umpires this year is at 92.6% accuracy. So you're pretty much right around that 9 or 10 pitches missed per game, essentially. Based on pitch counts, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're thinking 10 to 15, right? You're talking an entire inning worth of batters that you're missing. I mean, that it feels like a lot, right? Now, obviously, you didn't miss all of those in a row, but still. Or maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe they just sucked for a whole
yeah.
inning. Who knows? But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the guy that was 100% accuracy at all 136 called pitches correct.
136 called pitches out of figuring that there's probably somewhere around the neighborhood of about 270, 280.
Because then you have the foul balls and you have the swinging strikes and all that. But like out of all the called like balls or called strikes, all
hold on. Here we go. All right, now I want to know how did they do in the Phillies game?
Phillies game? Let me find that one.
Yeah, because now I could find out exactly how many pitches there were from everybody.
So Phillies and Braves, the umpire was Mark Carlson last night. 91% accurate, 150 out of 164 called pitches were correct. So he missed 14.
14 pitches were called incorrectly, and we're not sure if it was balls or strikes. It was
9 strikes were called inaccurate, and 5 balls were called inaccurate. Hold on.
And it doesn't say for which team, right?
No, but I'm going to send this into the group chat quick so you guys can kind of see what it looks like. Since I now found where you can find that stuff.
Yeah, because 98 pitches.
And then it also tells you like impactful missed calls, where if it says bottom of the 10th, Banks to Allen, 1 out, runner on third, 2-2 count, strike is called a ball. So it actually shows like actual pitches that could have dictated the game on the side too.
Oh wow!
Then his second one, we got bottom of the first, Jesus Luzardo to Murphy, 2 outs, runner on third, 1-2 count, ball is called a strike for strike 3. It should have been ball 2. Another pitch in the bottom of the first, Luzardo to Murphy, 2 outs, runner on third, 0-2 count, strike is called a ball. So basically 2 pitches to the same batter from Luzardo were called incorrectly in the first inning.
Low.
We got the best Googler in the world.
I found this on X because I just clicked on Dugout Report, and Dugout Report took me to Bleacher Report, and when I clicked on the thing for the umpire, that's where it brought me to the X account where it shows all the umpire scorecards.
Nice. Well,
so now every night, if you guys are curious, just look for umpire scorecards on X, and you can find the umpire that was the home plate umpire for.
That's what we have you for. Now we can get daily updates from the stat guys. Some stats from the stat guy.
Yeah, you guys. This is actually kind of cool.
There we go. We'll call it the Blue Report.
That's right.
How did Blue do today?
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Who needs the electronic strike zone when you have this thing right here? I think the worst one that I've seen so far is Jim Wolf. Jim Wolf's been around a long time. For the Brewers and Rockies, he had a 94% rating, but his misses were outrageous misses. Like, they weren't even close misses.
What do you mean?
Like his misses, like the called strikes that should have been balls, are all 3 inches off the plate minimum. Like, they're not even in like the red like borderline area. They're way off to the left and right.
So I guess how many of those could possibly be check swings?
I don't think I don't think those go as called. I think called are strictly the ones where they don't swing at all, where there's no check swing. Because if it's a check swing, it still counts as a swing once you check down.
Gotcha.
I think a called strike is strictly like where the batter doesn't swing at the ball, and that's where the umpire's got to call a ball or a strike. I think that's where they go based on the called pitches. Because those are the ones that he actually had to make a decision on his own versus a fall ball. It's an automatic strike. If you swing and miss, obviously it's an automatic strike. Like, you don't have to call that yourself. Like, that's just done given.
Okay. All right. I like the idea of the blue report.
Now you have homework.
Hey, I would look at this stuff every time. Sometimes I wish they would use this in high school sometimes.
You know, it's interesting though that they do have like the the accuracy, like the called strike accuracy, where some of those balls, that one ball that's way out there, like how did that occur?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like how did but that one spot that you could kind of tell, it's like that was part of his strike zone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you could kind of say that he's not calling them up higher. You know, like there was the 3 balls there that were really, or 4 balls there that were probably strikes.
And like this picture that I'm going to send you guys in a second here too, with Corey Blazer, he had a 97% accuracy on Wednesday where he missed 3 pitches. 2 pitches were in the exact same location for the most part. Down right at the knees, and that's like, I guess you're not going to call strikes down there. So if you look at the rest of the box, nothing else was down there. His only other miss was above the box, kind of up at the shoulders.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also depends on where it is they set up, right? Like sometimes because of the way that they're off one shoulder versus the other, you know, sometimes there's an area of the box that either is tighter or is a little bit wider because that's just their vantage point. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, sometimes there's that human element that you're just like, yeah, I can kind of see why they were seeing it that way. Which, you know, at the end of the day is why the robo is probably coming, right? Especially when you have these guys that are in the upper 80s, low 90s as far as accuracy. You know, it really kind of solidifies the case to have something consistent.
What I want to know, too, is if these umpires actually get these scorecards. Like, is there somebody actually sitting in the game, like sitting at the stadium every game, like marking this up on a computer? And then is there a way that these umpires get the scorecard, or are these just automatically handed into the MLB office? They look at it, and then they're the ones like, you've had 3 straight games now where your home plate accuracy has been like 80%. Like, what are we doing?
No, I mean, you have to assume that there is those types of conversations, right? Like, you have to think that they get this information. There's probably some video, be like, hey, what were you seeing here? Like, you were calling it like this all night. If there's blatant stuff, you would imagine there is a conversation. It just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of why does my phone keep why do they, you know, there doesn't seem to be recourse for bad calls, right? Like, you do it for a long period of time.
Because honestly, what does the MLB consider to be? Because everybody has human rate. Human rate ain't going to catch everything. That's why it's human. Yeah. But what does MLB consider to be an acceptable percentage to be missed? Is it 3%? Is that what we're saying?
No, I think they consider like 6% because I think it's like 94%.
Like 6?
94% is where they want all their umpires to be because that's on average about 5 missed pitches a game. Because they know.
So if you're 94 or better,
looking at this right here, as I'm paying attention, the overall accuracy was 91%. They want 94%, right?
Yeah,
so you're right with that 6% difference. It's actually, it looks to me like 93.3333333 is where they want it at. Like, so they'll give you 6.667.
Yeah, which is equivalent to basically like 5 to maybe 6 missed pitches based on how many. Obviously, if you call 200 strikes, well, then you got a little bit more leeway. You can miss now 12 pitches if you're calling 200 pitches, as opposed to if you're down to like 100 called strikes, you can only miss 5 or 6. Like, the more pitches you see, the more pitches you call. you have a little bit more leeway. What they want right around that 94% is what they consider acceptable. But as an umpire, though, like I would want to see these cards like after the game, just for like future reference point to see like, oh, I did miss this call. This is where I missed it, or this call I missed here. Like just to kind of get a sense of, was my strike zone actually that bad, or like was I just lining up at a wrong spot of the plate where I was consistently calling like balls or strikes on one side of the plate if they were balls or strikes. Like I would like to know that as an umpire for feedback, just so I can see that graph and be like, oh, I guess that was a ball, or oh, I guess that was a strike that I should have been called.
Well, I think that information would be helpful for where it is, again, when they're setting up to see, like, am I calling this area of the plate differently for whatever reason, right? Yeah. Like, am I missing these wide, or am I missing this close, or whatever? I mean, again, you have to assume that information is available to them, whether or not they actually do anything with it. I feel like that would be like guys on your football team not watching film. The film exists,
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, you got to think everybody has a performance review at some level. Everybody has a performance review. I mean, quarterly, weekly, whatever it is. So you got to imagine especially if you're calling it, like you said before, below that 94% rate. That's going to put a red flag that somebody needs to have a conversation with you, like you said, because you're below what the MLB considers to be acceptable. That's like low performance,
especially when you're missing 20-some pitches.
Yeah, but that too, like if it's like egregious misses where like these pitches are 3 inches outside and you're calling them balls or strikes, well then yes, you can have to have a conversation. But even if you're under 94%, if a lot of your misses are barely misses, but you're consistently calling it that same way throughout that game, I think that's less of a conversation to be had, because at least you're being consistent with it. Like you're consistently calling this borderline pitch one way the whole game, even if it's considered a miss based on the strike or ball ratio that they determine. At least you're being consistent with it. You're not dictating one inning, you're calling it tight, and then the next inning you're not calling it at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm saying that if it's 20 pitches that are missed, like you heard about 21 or 22 misses, usually that's for like 130, 140 pitches that haven't been swung at. Yeah. And that's not acceptable. I mean, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70%.
Exactly.
Now, if you're obviously getting closer to 200 pitches now, like if you're in extra innings and you're over right around the 200 mark, and then you're missing 15 to 20 pitches, yeah, it's still not great, but you're going to be closer to that 92, 93% because you're seeing a lot more pitches.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to know, like, because there's been some really bad ones. Like, who is the worst one now? Like,
I can see if I can find the worst umpire scorecard this year.
I mean, I feel like they'll have it for sure.
I got to imagine that's probably the baseline of this is what sucks is.
Yeah, as
long as I gotta imagine that they have a ranking system, just like everybody else has a ranking system of best umpire for completion percentage all the way down to who's at the bottom. You got to think they chart that.
So would it be like 72%?
Well, so technically speaking, the worst umpire scorecard this year was rated 93% accuracy, but he missed 17 pitches because he had 229 called pitches. So he saw almost 230 pitches in the game and called 212 accurate. So the most missed pitches by an umpire this year was 17.
Huh. Why did I hear that there was 22 calls that were wrong just recently?
Yeah, this was San Francisco versus Seattle Mariners.
I think we talked about it a week ago.
San Francisco versus Seattle Mariners on April 4th. The extra inning game, 10-9 Giants won. Sean Barber had 17 missed calls in that game. 8 missed balls that should have been strikes. 6 missed strikes that should have been ball. And his called strike accuracy was 83%. That's not a good accuracy right there.
Oh, hell no.
Well, I hope they're better than that tonight, because I'm going to be there, and I want to watch a good game.
Just hope you don't got Sean Barber behind the plate then.
I mean, it's already probably going to be rough because we're going up against the Rangers, and they're off to a decent start already. But yeah,
Wow, 83%. God,
that's terrible.
yeah. I could. I mean, that's definitely double-digit percentages below what, like you said, what MLB considers to be acceptable.
Well,
that's what you guys were probably talking about. Angel Hernandez had the worst umpire score sheet in Major League Baseball history last year in September. He had 84% accuracy.
100% miss rate.
84% accuracy. So he had an 84% accuracy, but his called strike accuracy was 65%.
Ooh, man.
That is atrocious.
That is so bad. But also not surprising.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
And that was got to be close to his last game.
Yeah, probably because he was down after September. Yeah, that had to be one of his last games. That is just bad. 65% accuracy and called strikes. That's like making an effort to suck.
Do you think he was just doing that because he knew he was out of, like he was going to get fired anyway? So he's like, hell with it. I'm just going to call it anyway.
That's like making an effort to suck.
It does seem like you're trying at that point.
I agree. I feel like that you're trying to screw up. Like you're just like, hey, you know what? I don't like this team. I don't like this team. Because the truth of the matter is becomes like when you're making these bad calls, yet, are they one team specific or not? Because that's the other thing.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it too, like, oh, this manager yelled at me for my strike zone last time, so I'm going to call it slightly different for this guy today.
Yeah, all of a sudden that strike zone is this big.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But I don't know. Either way. But if you're on a bet on the strike zone, you could go bet with us.
Right here on Coast to Coast. 125% bet guarantee, 10% or bet deposit bonus, 10% bet guarantee. Yeah, whatever. Use the QR code. Bet alongside us right here. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, this QR code here. Free 5-day pass. Any of the 3 locations: the True Fusion Gym, Bellevue Ballard, University Village, Pilates Boot Camp, Yoga Bar, and more. Find your edge. True Fusion Gym. All right.
You almost had that alley-oop, Bo. He gave you a good lob.
I know. Fumbled the bag right there. It's all right.
I mean, that was a Don Stockton assist.
It's Friday.
Words are hard.
Friday.
Words are hard.
Oh, that's like an Angel Hernandez miss right there.
Oh, no, it wasn't even that good.
No, at least Bo got close to the point. Angel Hernandez would have just kept going to left field on that one.
I just kept waiting for the Angel, ring someone up when they get hit with it, right? He's like, out. And he's like, it hit me in the back.
Well, you should have turned quicker.
He swung.
Exactly.
You know,
It was a foul call off the back. What if it did hit you in the back and roll fair? He's out.
Well, and what he's supposed to be going down to the Bananas, right?
I hope not.
That's something that I was reading.
Wait, Angel Hernandez is going to the Bananas?
No, not to the team, obviously.
No, I know. I mean the league. Yeah, I understand what you meant. Yeah.
I mean, that's somebody who's going to be traveling around. I mean, it doesn't matter if he gets calls, balls, and strikes right.
Well, that's I think why it's kind of happening, right? At least that's what I was reading. Who knows if it actually comes together? But
what's he going to start dancing? Because the umpires have to dance.
He'll throw his back.
That would be hilarious. You know how rigid that would be.
He's in the Mexican League right now. He's in the Mexican League right now. That's all I know.
Yeah. I know he's still working.
Bauer's pitching.
Bauer's gonna have a fun time with his strike zone. That's going to be some good entertainment.
I mean, I keep watching because I keep getting a lot of his stuff. Like
on his YouTube.
On Instagram, actually.
Yeah, he's got actually his own YouTube channel where every time he pitches, he's mic'd up. I want to see him be mic'd up with Angel Hernandez behind home plate and get that content.
That would be pretty great.
He's like, I mean, he's always telling the batter to go F off.
Yep.
Every time he's like strikes out. I mean, he pitched the immaculate inning, and it really wasn't immaculate. He just because he got the guy to swing doesn't mean that it was immaculate. He didn't throw. And I figure like an immaculate inning is you throw 9 strikes looking. You know what I mean? Like it's like almost like it's if you pitch out of the zone and the guy goes chasing, I can appreciate it, but that doesn't really make it an immaculate inning. But
Right.
I guess 9 pitches, 9 strikes, and 3. I guess you can call it that. I don't know.
I mean,
if it was close enough that you get him to go, I mean,
Yeah.
now if it was down in the dirt or something, that would be harder. But like if it was something that was just brushing the zone, you got the guy to go and miss it. Like I can give you that.
yeah, or you have like a situation where the guy has 6 foul balls and then the other 3 pitches are put in place for outs. That counts as 9 strikes. So you're going to count that as an immaculate inning too?
I mean, definitely not.
They would still count it though because he threw 9 strikes and no balls.
No,
So
I mean, I get it. It feels different though.
It does feel different, but they would still count that as an immaculate inning if it was even with like 6 foul balls. It still counts as a strike.
Yeah, I think that
guess.
the immaculate portion disappears the moment that
They
bats
make
the ball. Bats the ball.
I mean, that's the way
I
I
assume I didn't make the rules of this either,
Yeah.
though. So
Yeah, no, that's the way I would contact. I feel like you're already done.
what
Right.
constitutes an immaculate inning in baseball?
I think it's just 9 strikes, no
It'd
balls.
be funny if Siri said, "Ask that guy."
I think it's just 9 strikes. I think
If
it's
we
just 9
had one.
So it's only happened 115 times in Major League history.
That's actually kind of surprising.
Especially for
Hey,
how
Bo,
good
I
like
think
Nolan
experience
Ryan
in your
and some of the other
Comcast
pitchers are.
issues.
All right. So
What was that?
Wow.
do fouls count in an
I said for
immaculate inning?
especially for
That
when you
is.
consider how good like Nolan
That is
Ryan
great.
and like Sandy Koufax and some of those pitchers were back then. Like you didn't think that how many immaculate innings they could have got.
Yeah, you would have thought Nolan Ryan would have had a few of those.
Oh yeah.
For sure, at least one.
I mean, no doubt.
So foul balls. So if the foul is committed in the first or second strike, that's still considered an
Yeah.
immaculate inning.
It's just straight
Okay.
9. It's just straight 9 pitches, 9 strikes. So you could have 6 foul balls, and then your other 3 pitches are put in play. As long as it's 9 strikes, it's an immaculate inning.
Interesting.
Oh.
What pitcher had the most immaculate innings?
Don't get away just yet.
Sandy Koufax, Chris Sale, and
Good
Max
player.
Scherzer have all thrown an immaculate inning 3 times, tying for the most in Major League Baseball history.
Sandy Koufax makes sense.
Yes.
Max Scherzer makes sense.
Yep. Chris Sale makes sense back when he was with the White Sox.
I'm sure that's probably when it happened.
Even I guess last year with the Braves too, because he was like 19-3 last year with the Braves with like a 2.20 ERA. So it would have made sense if he did it last year too.
So on that list, did Nolan Ryan ever do one?
So here's 6 have pitched more than once. Lefty Grove, Sandy Koufax, Nolan Ryan,
Okay.
Chris Sale, Max Scherzer, and Kevin Gausman.
Gausman, yeah.
Although Koufax, Sale, and Scherzer are the only ones to do it 3 times. So out of the 115.
That does surprise me. I mean, Nolan had 5,000 strikeouts. The fact he only had one, you said immaculate inning. That's crazy with the amount of strikeouts that he had. I thought he would definitely had
never
more.
had a perfect game, right? He had a bunch of no hitters, but he
Yeah.
no perfect games. So
Right.
Did you guys see that stat that I sent you the other day about Major League Baseball?
No, I'm better than that group.
Which I thought was like actually shocking. So since Major League Baseball's inception in 1876, there have been 20,821 professional baseball players that have ever played baseball. To put that in context, that would only fill up 60% of the smallest stadium in Major League Baseball.
Or all of Sacramento and Tampa Bay stadiums. Right?
Not counting them because they're in minor league parks. But like, The smallest
Standing
stadium,
room only.
the smallest stadium attendance wise is Progressive Field in Cleveland, which holds like 34,000. So basically, 20,000 players have played the game. That would fill up 64% of Progressive Field.
Wow. I didn't realize that field was so small.
They did a big remodel on it a couple years ago and got rid of like a lot of seats in the outfield and turned some of it into a restaurant, and then some of it got turned into suites and some other stuff.
I mean, if you're not filling it up, you might as well.
Well, that's
You know what I mean?
because
Yeah.
Cleveland was actually filling it up pretty well from like 2016 through 2020, like when they were in the World Series in 2016, and then they got back to the ALCS in like 2018. Like they were filling it up like 38,000 per game back then, and then after COVID, they were averaging like 16,000, 17,000, 18,000 despite making the playoffs every year. So now it's like, we'll just get rid of the 10,000 seats we used to have, and now at 34,000, if we get the 20,000 seats, it looks a lot more full than what it really is.
Here's an interesting one here. So, Aaron Nola was the last one to do this, and I remember watching the inning. He pitched a 3-pitch inning.
Yep.
That's happened 202 times in Major League Baseball history. So, that being said, there became the question, what is the rarest feat in baseball amongst anything that they keep track of? What would be considered the rarest feat in baseball?
Mm-hmm.
A player hitting 2 grand slams in 1 inning.
No?
Does that happen one time?
It's happened 1 time.
Who did that one?
Fernando Tatis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
That's
so
actually in
many-
modern times. I was thinking that would be something that would be like in older times. That's actually
Yeah,
modern.
I mean,
era.
there's so many things that have to go right for that to happen.
Right.
There's another thing that's happened once in Major League Baseball, and it happened with the Seattle Mariners in 1995. Jeff Nelson threw a 1-pitch inning.
Because he must have walked the other two. And
Nope,
then
he
like,
came in.
play.
He came in with runners on first and second, no outs. Picked the first guy off. Next pitch was a ground out double play. 1-pitch inning because he gets credit for the inning pitch because the first guy didn't get a batter out.
That's
Yeah, that's dumb.
yeah.
They still track it though, but he's the only pitcher ever to have a 1-pitch inning where he came in with runners on base, nobody out. He gets credit for the inning pitched, but he only needed 1 pitch to get out of the inning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weak. That's weak.
Yeah. That guy. It's like a 94% miss rate on you.
That's it. They track it. They want to track it, they'll track it.
Well, it's funny because it's one of the questions that it has here. It's like, alternatively, it is possible for a pitcher to enter a situation where there are 2 runners on base and no outs, and he could throw 1 pitch that results in a triple play or something similar to that. So,
Yeah, Jeff Nelson's the only one to do that in 1995 with the Mariners.
Hey, Robert, I'm in 5th place. It's my first year playing fantasy baseball, which, by the way, if you've never played fantasy baseball, which is my first year doing it, it's really tricky to get used to because it's so.
You have to check your roster every day and make changes based on who's pitching, who's not pitching.
Yeah,
who's
I mean, it's
not sitting.
a lot more involved than I guess I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yep.
Now, everybody here, Hams fans,
Yep.
keep living the. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now that was a good season. That was
And
a
that'd
good
be
season.
2001 too.
Yeah, the thing that's funny is although the win total for 2001 was better, the 95 team was better.
Oh yeah,
Like that team was probably one of the best teams to never win. Like that was a full-on all-star team.
mm-hmm.
And then they just couldn't get past the Yankees.
It's like the Minnesota Twins nowadays. If the Twins see the Yankees in the playoffs, you might as well not even play the series because they cannot get past the Yankees in the playoffs.
Yep.
I don't know. The Yankees, I mean, they're still playing very good baseball, but I don't know. I expected them to be a little bit further along than where they are. I mean, I kind of thought they'd have a little bit more of a commanding top of lead and first in that division, but Toronto's really doing well.
here you go. Do you know it's not illegal to throw underhand as a pitcher?
Really? Huh.
Oh,
I thought it was. I thought that's why the people that do that, like almost underhand sidearm, always got so much hate.
Well, they have hate because it's different because it's like a submarine pitcher.
Yeah.
But that's what you're called. You're called a submarine pitcher because ultimately there are no set rules for baseball pitchers having to throw the ball overhand, which is why sometimes pitchers can throw it at different angles, including sidearm and submarine.
like young Kim and Chad Bradford.
I mean, that ball approach, it's weird when it's coming up from down below. So, I mean,
As much as you would think, like watching some of those old sidearm kind of submarine pitchers throw, you would think that's really bad for your shoulder. When in reality, it's actually overhand that's worse for your shoulder because underhand is your natural motion.
yeah, it seems like it would be really rough because they're not doing a true underhand.
Yeah.
Because they're out here, it actually looks like it would be so much worse on your elbow.
And they actually say that submarine and sidearm is less stressful on your elbow and shoulder than actual overhand.
Interesting.
Because if you're like when you're walking and everything, like your natural motion is underhand, so you're used to your arm coming from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's like you're going against the design of the ligaments and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you probably still have more power over the top. But.
Oh yeah, you would, but it's like that's what they say. Like if a pitcher were to do that, sometimes they think they can make their career last a little bit longer if they would change. Like if they've had like constant like elbow and shoulder injuries in the past. Sure. If you want to keep pitching, they always tell pitchers try to go sidearm or try to go more submarine because you can make your career last longer because you're going back toward more of a natural motion.
Well, and even if you lose some speed, it doesn't matter because the approach of the ball is so different.
Right, the angle of it
anyway.
I mean, 88 miles an hour on a submarine is going to be like a 95 mile an hour fastball just because of the arm angle.
No, that's what I'm saying. It would just be weirder to pick it up.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Huh. I wonder why more pitchers haven't thought about that approach.
Because everyone's all about velocity now.
Yeah.
Velocity, spin rate, all that other stuff that pitchers didn't have back in the 90s that they didn't care about. Pitchers in the 90s just cared about throwing strikes. It didn't matter if you threw 84 miles an hour to throw a strike or 95. They just cared about throwing strikes. Now it's you want to throw 100, 102. You want to have the highest spin rate. You want to try to get the most RPMs on your pitches. Yep. That's why there's so many more injuries now because pitchers are all more worried about velocity and spin rate now instead of just learning how to throw a baseball properly and just throwing strikes.
Yeah, well, command doesn't seem like as big of a deal anymore either.
No.
Like it used to be if you weren't fast, but you had great command.
Right.
Right? Because you were still getting guys out.
Mm-hmm. Because like hitters nowadays, too. Like hitters nowadays, I think, chase a lot more than they used to chase, too.
Sure.
So that's why your command doesn't have to be as accurate as it once was because you know you're going to get hitters to chase eventually.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, because everybody's throwing 95, 98, you might as well get one of those guys that throws like 83 because they're going to be so far ahead of that ball.
Right.
Bring in Jamie Moyer right now. You can swing twice.
Saying.
You can probably swing twice and still make contact.
Hey,
he does not have the slowest pitch to ever be thrown in baseball, though.
I know that somebody.
No, that's probably a position player.
No, that wasn't it. The Ephus pitch. I was like 58.
It was 31.
31. Okay.
31.
And it was an Ephus pitch. And it was thrown by. It just had it right here. Give me a second. I can probably pull it back up.
It's impressive they can get it from the mound to home plate at 31 miles an hour.
Right? That's what I was thinking. So injuries here, Rob, absolutely have to do with velocity. It's actually why there used to be a thing that would keep kids from throwing hard when they were younger because they didn't want to have some of these injuries while their joints and stuff were still developing. So, I mean,
it's the spin rate more than the velocity. But
velocity does have an issue.
Velocity, I think, is more like with shoulder injuries, but it's the spin rate that is the elbow issues. Just because pitchers now
that lives to that Tommy John.
You're
on that ball.
The elbow.
Yeah. It used to be like you would snap your wrist and your elbow would kind of go with it. Like if you watch some of the pitches that Paul Skeens throws, it looks like his elbow's going to pop out of his arm every time he spins that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And Brock Holt.
There you go.
Threw a 31 mile per hour.
I remember Brock Holt on the Red Sox.
Yeah, that is definitely the slowest pitch to ever be pitched in Major League Baseball. And it was a strike.
Even
Wow.
better. Even better. Probably because it was a swinging strike and they were way ahead of it.
Nah, it was one of those ephus pitches, so it was like all the way up in the air and came right in on a strike.
Oh.
It was-
Like on Rookie of the Year with the floater.
Exactly. That does get us to the top of the hour at the end of the week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, have a great weekend, everybody.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.